Thank you so much. Today we're going to be doing a training about Drupal theming with SDC and Tailwind CSS. So it is going to be an introduction to theming. We're going to be working with SDCs. We will learn how to get Tailwind into our system and how to work with that. Before we get started, I would like to know some stuff. So raise your hand if you are already, no, if you are new to Drupal. Okay. Raise your hand if you are familiar with theming. Okay. Have you used SDC? If you have used SDC, raise your hand. Okay. And if you have worked with Tailwind in Drupal. Okay. Okay, understood. Great. So hopefully we're going to get all of that covered. For those of you who are already familiar with theming, there's going to be a little bit where you already know what I'm talking about, but we will work our way through the end. My name is Darisa Sminach. I'm a Drupal developer and trainer at Evolving Web, and with me I have. Sorry.
Hi everyone. My name is Maya. I'm a Drupal trainer and Drupal developer at Evolving Web as well. And today I'm going to be here to help you troubleshoot if you have some issues. You can just raise your hand and ask for help, or if you want me to re-explain something maybe. If you feel left behind at some point, just raise your hand and I'll come to you to help you troubleshoot and re-explain things.
Yeah, and as we said, we are both from Evolving Web. We are a full-service digital agency, so we do everything from design, development. We also do training, as you can see. But yeah, we work with organizations that want to make a big impact in the world, and these are some of the teams that we have worked with on training, for example, specifically, but also helping out with building their websites and then increasing collaboration. In the things that we'll cover today, we have theming fundamentals, the structure of a theme, creating a custom theme using the started kit generator, customizing theme regions, the template system, so a little bit of Twig syntax, just enough for us to build some components, to make a molecular design, SDCs, and Tailwind CSS. Okay? So now, this here you can find the training manual. So that is going to be a PDF with all the information that we're going to cover today and exercises as well. So you can access it that way. Oh, good. Okay. I don't know if all of you have already an environment working locally or in your machines. Yes?
I had issues with my computer like last week, so nothing's installed.
Okay.
So we need to for the working environment.
Yeah, sure. Don't worry. That was my next slide. So we provide an environment already, so there is a template.
The angle of the QR code was.
Oh, sure. Yeah, so we provide, this is the same training manual that we were looking at before, right? So apart from that, for the environment, I'm going to be using something called Gitpod. So basically, we're going to be able to code everything from the browser. For those of you who don't have a working environment, we can use that one. It is going to be really easy and quickly to set up. Only thing is that you need to have a GitHub account and a Gitpod account. But that's it. So you can access the environment with this one. Okay, so for this, as I told you, you need to have an environment working, an account in GitHub, And then you can go to gitpod.io and then create your account, okay? I'll give you a couple of minutes to do it so that it's ready. Normally what will happen is that it will allow you to create an account using GitLab, GitHub, or Bitbucket. So you can do that. And once you have the accounts, please let me know so that we can go to the next step. Yes, sure. If you already have an account in Gitpod or in GitHub, that's perfect. Just go to gitpod.io, and then we will work with that.
It says new workspace and has some options. Is that right? For Gitpod?
Let's not, like if you go to this one?
Yeah.
Yeah, don't click on it yet. Just make sure that you have the account created in Gitpod, and then we're going to work on this one. This repository basically has everything we need to create a Drupal site in Gitpod using ddev as the development environment. I created it as a template, so what you will need to do is go to this green button in the top right that says use this template, and the first thing we're going to do is create a repository based on that template, okay? So I'm going to go there, use this template, create a new repository, and then in here I'm going to give it a name, okay? Here. So I'm going to call this one DrupalConf Portland PTX. I'm going to So I give it a name. Make sure it is still a public repository so that we can use it with Gitpod. And once that's done, let's create it. This is so that each of you is going to have your repository, you will have your code in there, and you will be able to access and change everything you want. At this point, what we're doing is just creating the repository in GitHub. You can see the rest of it is the same stuff. What I want us to do is two things. One, let's go to gitpod.io if you already have your account. I need to make sure that we have the right permissions access. So we're going to go to the top right to the avatar for our user account. And then in there we will click user settings. And then in user settings, we will go to Git providers in the sidebar. You will find the 3 Git providers. We will go to the GitHub one. We click on the 3 dots and then edit permissions. And here we make sure that we have public repo and workflow enabled. Okay? If you don't have it, we enable both of them and authorize again.
I'm way behind you.
Okay, it's okay. I'm gonna go back again.
Okay, so I'm just still trying to create a Gitpod account.
Sorry?
Still trying to create a Gitpod account.
Oh, okay.
So I just need.
Oh, sure. I will wait.
If it's only me, move ahead.
No, I think there's more people.
Hey,
Okay. Then let's wait.
And then should I create a new repository?
Yes. Okay.
If you want to work locally, do you clone just the repo that you?
Yes, perfect.
Yeah.
You clone just a repository and then you just work with data if you have any stuff. Yes. That's another option. If you want to work with your local, in your local environment, you can just clone the repository in your machine and work with that. But for those of you who want to work with the Gitpod, that's an option. When you're creating the account with Gitpod, it will ask you some questions at the beginning, and then you will be able to continue. I'll do our little round. See how we're doing. It's okay. Yes. Don't create it yet. So you just
Okay, yeah, I have it in my GitHub account.
okay, so you're fine. Let's go to
Oh, I was just
User
wondering if
settings.
I wanted to split
Okay. No? Okay. Oh, there was a no here? Okay, okay. Are you okay?
I think I'm in the right spot.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, you can also. Yes. Okay. But in here you only the position left. So what you can do is here, click on continue with GitHub, and then you will express your GitHub account. Ah, okay. Okay. So click that. Give me 1 second. That's better. That's fine. Everything is going to be for everyone. So if you want to everything is going to Oh, sure. I didn't see it. It was so small.
Yeah, I installed a site. So
If you're in the overview website, you need to
I don't need to do any of this. Yeah.
that's what they did at first with you guys.
Oh,
Is that better?
I'm just going to say.
Sure.
Yeah. Just one quick thing. If you already have a Drupal website up and running, a new instance of Drupal up and running on your computer, you don't need to do that. Gitpod is if you don't have that, or if you don't want to have a new Drupal instance on your computer. So if you're already up and running with a new D10 installation, you're good to go. This is for people that might not have anything installed already on their computer.
10.3 will work okay, I take it? 10.3 will work okay?
Yeah. And if not, we'll try to see why. But it should be good.
Yeah, all right.
should we be looking at that edit permission screen?
Sorry?
Should we be looking at that edit permission screen? Like, that's where we ought to be?
Don't worry, I will just close it.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, it is just that we need to make sure that for those using Gitpod, we need to make sure that you have the repo and workflow permissions enabled. I'm going to do it again so that we all are in the same place. And then you're good here, and after this, I'm going to repeat the steps. Okay? Okay, so I'm going to repeat the steps quickly, so that we know what was happening here. For those using Gitpod, because they don't have a local or an installation of Drupal, then once you have Gitpod account created, you will go to the top right, user settings. In here, in the sidebar, you go to Git providers, find GitHub, and in the 3 dots, you click, and then click on edit permissions. We need to have the permissions repo and workflow enabled. So you will enable those two and then update permissions, and we will be good to go. This is so all the changes that we do in Gitpod are going to be maintained in the GitHub repository, okay? So that's what we have there. Now, once that is done, what we're going to do is use the template that I showed you before. So if you go to the Gitpod starter page, this is too small, right? Let's see, like that. For those who didn't create the repository yet, you click on the button in the top right, the green button, and that says use this template. that will take you to, sorry, you click on use this template, then you click on create a new repository, and then you give it a name in here.
I fork it from your Drupal Portland. Is that okay?
It's okay.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, yeah. The other option is fork from the one that I created. Both things are fine.
Because I didn't have
The link.
URL, so I just went to your GitHub profile and I saw Drupal banners.
Okay, that's fine.
But we edited the README file. And it's
Okay, okay, great.
So, yeah, just make sure that that. Okay. Oh, and then go back to the thing that you said, like, open up here, so it should be your fork missing. We're supposed to be in our fork, right? Not on your side.
Exactly. We are in the fork or in the repository that we created based on the template, any of those pages. And then what we need to do next is edit the README file so that this link is not tied to my repository, but to yours. So I'm going to come here, click on edit. Sorry?
I just have to keep in mind local, so keep it simple.
Yeah, if you keep it local, that's fine. So I'm going to make this bigger again. In this line 9, we will need to change the repository, okay? So this repository here should now be the one that you created. So in my case, it is Darisa/DrupalCon Portland. In your case, it might be something different depending on what name you gave to the repository, okay? To get here, I click on the pencil for the README file. Yeah? Yeah?
For those local, do we go through the install of Drupal?
Yes, you can just install it.
Okay.
You can do ddev composer install and then ddev drush si.
Okay,
Or even,
so don't run through the GUI.
you can also do that, but that's fine.
So you have the fork.
You're still getting, okay. I will change it here. So you see that before it was Darisa/git put starter. Now I change it for the new name of the repository, okay? So now I will commit the changes in the top right and save. I want to see what's going on. Okay, so we currently have like 4 paths for people. So I will go over them. We have people that is using Gitpod. We have people that is using the same repository but in your local machines. We have people that is using your fresh install that you had already, right? If you had a fresh install already, you're good to go. Just wait for us a little bit, okay? If you're using my repository but in your local machine, you, oh,
On my way.
then give me 2 more minutes and I will be with you. And for those that are using Gitpod, if we already edited the README, okay, are we all good with the README file? Yes? So now what we want to do is, in your repository, you will click on the Opening Gitpod button. This Opening Gitpod is going to give you some options. First thing is, it will tell you what repository it is going to work based on. So make sure it is yours, okay? Once you're sure it's yours, you will click on Continue. It will prepare the environment and put the containers up, and we will be good to go, okay? It might take a little bit. I tested it this morning to make sure everything was fine, again, and it took like 3 minutes, which was a lot less than what it usually takes. It is usually like between 5 and 10 the first time, and after that it is just like, boom, super quick. So let's see how it goes right now. For those of you who are using the repository, but not Gitpod, if you clone it already and you have ddev, there is, inside of the project folder, one file called setup.sh, and it has this thing. This script is specifically for, well, it was specifically for working in a Gitpod, but if you're not working in Gitpod, you can remove the line 3 because you don't want to set up ddev again if you have it already. And all you need to do is either run these commands manually or run the script, but you just need to do composer install and then install the website, okay? The install can be done just with this command. So it is ddev exec or just ddev drush, that's totally fine. SI is the short for site install. -- existing config is so that you will install the website with existing configuration that I have for this training. And this is to define the password of the user1 account, okay? So you can do that and you will be good to go.
If I ran through the install and the GUI, do I still do that?
No, don't worry. If you wanted to run through the install in the user interface, like the GUI, the graphic user interface, that's also fine, but you needed to run composer install first, okay? So those are the things that we need. So for those on Gitpod, you see it's taking more than what it took this morning. So let's just be a little bit patient. Usually it takes a long time the first time, but this a long time can be like 5 minutes, something like 5, even 10 minutes in a really bad day. But usually it is quick. After the first time, it is like 1 minute top, and we get everything installed. So we'll see that in a bit. Now, if the processes are running, I want to know, raise your hand the people that is using Gitpod. Okay, keep your hand raised if you're in this step. Okay. What is empty? Oh, that's that. Okay. Yes. Okay, let's see what happens. Okay. Now, for the people that is using the repository but locally, raise your hand. Now, okay, so just a couple of people. Now, that's fine. Lower your hand if if you already have it installed. Okay, for those that were using already the other one. Okay. So mostly the ones that are pending are the Gitpod people, right? Okay. So I forgot that instruction. Okay, so while this is happening, I'm going to let it run in, and we're going to go back to the slides so that we make some progress, and then we come back here, okay? Okay, so one more thing, if you want to see it, is this is the QR code to access the slides. So you can have it as well.
Different from the manual.
Different from the manual. These slides are the ones that I'm presenting here. The manual is like a PDF with super verbose instructions and so on. Okay. It is difficult to. Okay. Are we all?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So let's talk about theming fundamentals. What does a theme do?
Provide styling.
Yeah, basically. At the end, that's what it does. But it allows us also to change the markup. So at the end, when we're working with themes, it basically defines what are going to be what is the layout and the regions of our website. It allows us to change the HTML output of the site, allows us to add the styling with CSS and JavaScript, and at the end, it also allows us to have some extra settings so that we can alter the look and feel of the site, right? The main 3 points is it intercepts the process of rendering something so that we can change the HTML markup and add HTML and CSS for it, right? The theme provides, or overrides actually, the look and feel, the HTML, the CSS, the JavaScript of the output of the entire website. So basically, everything that a module prints in our theme, in our website, the theme can override, right? In general, for those of you who are new to themes, the structure of a theme is something similar to what we have here. Basically, there are different files that are commonly used in themes. The only one actually required is the info YAML file, just like with modules and other projects in Drupal. But we have all of these other files that could exist in a theme on our website. Info YAML 1 is the one that is required always, as I mentioned before. Basically, this is the one that tells Drupal that this is a theme and that it should discover it as such. We have the breakpoints YAML file, which allows us to define a set of breakpoints that are going to work in our theme. We have the libraries YAML file, which is the one in which we can define libraries. Libraries are basically packaged assets, packaged CSS and JavaScript assets that we can add to any page. We have the .theme file, which allows us to have some more structural code, some preprocess functions for our theme so that we can change the variables that are going to be printed in our templates. And then we have some other folders like config, where we can store configuration, CSS, JavaScript. These are not really required, or they don't have to be named this way. It is just some folders that we're using to categorize or organize the rest of our assets in there. One that does need to be called in that way is the templates one. The templates folder is the folder that Drupal needs for it to know that there are some templates in your theme, and to try to go and find the templates that it will use when it is printing something. So that's the general structure that we have. I'm going to take you back to the Gitpod. Yes? Sorry? The breakpoints allows us to define a set of breakpoints that we can use in our website. So, for example, if you say that you have small breakpoint that is, I don't know, 767 pixels wide, that will be a breakpoint. We can see it in one of the examples here, so I'm going to show you the file in just a sec. I went back to Gitpod, which in my case is done. Is it good for any of you? No, it's still running. Sure. I'm going to go back. Just give me one sec. This one?
Yes, thank you.
Great.
It just says exit, but the building image.
It is still stuck there?
It just says, yeah, just exit and then cursor, but it's not doing anything anymore.
Yours as well? Yeah. Oh, yours is yes. Okay.
Oh, it can be. Oh, it just started up. And then just a quick question. I was also trying on. You know, with a configure type. Drupal starts as
Yours is good.
that composer install didn't work, so I did UWexec.
Oh, is that, yeah.
No, no, let's scroll up.
And then I tried to run this one out of here. Is there something?
Yours is over,
So
yeah.
right now.
I can see because it says here that it's running. So I'm going to ignore that. And then in this one, I'm just going to open.
Oh, I was just running
Oh,
that.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
let me see.
but I mean, like no username or password.
I can try to open it here.
You know, so I don't know whether to count password
Yeah,
free.
maybe we can select
Like,
the
am I
browser
supposed to
option
phone
or
someone from
access
over here and do it?
opening browser. Opening browser. And now. Perfect. Yes.
Yeah, just a little. So, I mean, I have a running Drupal site.
Uh-huh.
And I was trying to run the composer install, didn't work. Sorry, UWexec install that
Uh-huh.
did work. And I tried to run this camp, but I haven't set up the camp. And it's still this
Okay.
format. So when I run that, I get a.
Okay, can I see, can you do ls here? Okay, yes, you don't have a, yeah, okay, I know. So this is a new site that you set up. So you cannot use existing config because you don't have a config folder. So you can just remove that part of the
Oh,
command. Yes.
gotcha.
So it is not because of the account.
And I don't have an account password yet either.
That's okay. That's okay. If you do this, it will install Drupal. It will create a user one, and it will give it this password to a user.
SE stands for site hosting.
Yeah.
What you would have done on this page, on the install verification page.
Now, if you go back to the site, you can get rid of the core install and reload, and then you have the site.
That's it? Okay. And I'm good to go?
You're good to go.
All right, I'm caught. All right, cool. Thank you both.
it is this one. Okay, great. So I was here, and in my set, what happened with the Gitbot is I had a script so that it will automatically do some stuff, the script that I showed before. So it is normally instead of project folder, set up a sage. So this was run. You don't have to do it right now. Don't worry about it. It was run automatically, so we're good to go. If you want, you can look at the terminal down here, and you can see the whole history. It's basically that. It did a composer install, and then it installed Drupal here, and then it's just telling me what are the URLs that exist for this project. So we could work with that. What I will do to visit my Drupal site, for us that are working on Gitbot, is we go to ports, we find the 8080, and then it will open the Drupal site. Okay? The hardest part was set up the repository, which is like, okay. We have it here. We can now log in. If you want to log in right now, you can just go there. The username is going to be admin. And for this test, as I put it here in the script, the password is admin123. Super secure. And then we're there. Okay? So now we're ready to work. Admin123. Yeah, even they don't like it. Okay, there it is. So we're talking about the themes, and we're talking about some of the files that we have in those themes. I will take you to, right now, I want to show you some of those files. So I will use some of the themes that exist currently in the core. So we'll go to web, core, themes. And you can see here we have some of the, well, not some, all of the themes that come with Drupal core. If we go to Olivero, for example, you can see here all of the files, and they are all very similar to the ones that I show you in the slides, right? So this is the structure of the theme. Someone here asked what is a breakpoint YAML file. So this is how the breakpoint YAML file looks like. I don't know if this is still too small for people in the back. Okay. There? Okay. I'll try to make this here. And then it's here. So basically, these breakpoints are the breakpoint configuration for this theme in the website. So you can see we have certain sizes, and basically we're defining here what are the media queries for all of those, so that eventually when we're working with trying to make this thing responsive and so on, we can just use any of those to define stuff. It is the thing that you can use also when you're defining responsive image styles, for example, in the site building. All of those will be available for you to choose what image style is going to be used on each breakpoint. So that's what this file is for. But you can see we have some others, like we have the info YAML file, which has the name, the type of project, if there is a base theme, some other information about it. We have the libraries YAML file, which allows us to define different libraries with a list of all the assets that it needs. So in this case, we have the global styling that has these CSS assets. If I keep going down, eventually I get to some JavaScript assets that it has as well, and the dependencies of this particular library. So this is another file that we can find. The theme file, as I told you, this is a PHP file where you can add some preprocessed functions. So there are a lot of preprocessed functions in this one, I think, or maybe not that one, let's see. Yeah, there are some there. So that is something else that we have. And then there are some other things like this screenshot PNG, which is basically the thing that is used as a preview when you go to the appearance page in Drupal. And in this case, this theme settings, which is another PHP file where you can add some changes to the settings page of your theme. So these are some of the examples. You can go and look at the themes that already exist to take inspiration for things that you need. In our case, what we're going to do is we will create our custom theme, okay, to work with this. Now, have you worked with the starter kit generator? Can you raise your hand if you have? We have a couple of people there. Okay, great. So the starter kit generator is another tool that Drupal launched or released with Drupal 10. And it is really cool because it allows us to create themes very easily. So we're going to be using that one, okay, for our first theme. Before actually going for it, I want to make sure we have certain stuff that will make our lives easier when we're doing theming in Drupal. First thing is we should enable tweak debug. Before, we had to do the tweak debug is basically an utility that allows us to see or debug some variables in the tweak templates. It allows us to see template suggestions for, or file name suggestions for our templates. You can see, for example, if you come here to your website and you inspect something, this is normally what you get, right? All the markup. Tweak debug allows us to have some comments in that markup so that we can easily find some stuff. So we need to enable tweak debug. In previous versions of Drupal, the only way to do that was dealing with some files, a file called development services YAML file, that we needed to include it in a local settings PHP file that needed to be included from the settings PHP file. So it was a whole thing. Since Drupal 10.1, there is a new utility to use this from the graphic interface. So we're going to do it. We'll go to configuration. Oh, look at that. I don't have dropdowns. Maybe let's install admin toolbar real quick. So go to your terminal. Make sure you're in the project folder, right? And then from there, let's just do ddev composer require Drupal / admin toolbar. I'm gonna add some other modules as well, like Devel. So we'll do Drupal / Devel as well. So we have both of the things. And apart from these two, I will add another one called core/dev. No, was it? Let me check. Okay, let's see if it was that one. I don't remember if that was exactly the name. Let me check. Yeah. MT2 award. Sorry, not core dev. I think it was Drupal / core dev, but I don't remember. So let's do with admin toolbar and Devel. Yeah, I did this one. I think. Yeah. So it is Drupal / admin toolbar and Drupal / Devel. Once we have that, Let's enable them. So we can do that from the UI or from Drush. That's okay. I'm going to go to the UI. So I'll go to the extend page. And here I will find my modules. So I'll find the admin. And then you will see here we have the administration package, which admin toolbar. So we'll enable that one and the admin toolbar extra tools. And I will also find Devil. I will enable both of them, Devil and Devil Generate for now. Okay? And then I will click on install. Okay, so once we're done, now we actually have the drop-down, so that will be easier. And now we actually want to go and enable the tweak debug that I was telling you about. So let's go to configuration, development, development settings. And then in here, we're going to choose the tweak development mode. We will leave on the tweak debug mode and disable tweak cache, and we also will check the one for do not cache markup. So we check all of these options, and then we click on save settings. A lot. Now we can.
Did you say check do not cache markup?
Yes. Though something happened with my site.
So you can put them in config management.
Sorry?
You can actually add them, you can store them, codify in config management, right? Settings.
Okay, there we are. It was just a hiccup. Okay, so once you're done with that, you can now see that we have all the comments here in the markup. So we have tweak debug enabled. That's good. And now we want to also make sure that we're logging the messages, that we have no cache, and we are not aggregating JS and CSS files. So let's do that as well. So we'll go to configuration, development, logging and errors. Make sure we have all messages for development here. So save configuration. We are good. We already checked we didn't have the cache with the tweak debug part. And we want to disable the aggregation of JavaScript and CSS assets. So let's go to configuration, development, performance now. And in here, we will deselect the aggregation of those two. So we save that, and what happens is, actually I should have shown first. I will enable it right now. You don't have to, I'll just show it. If I have them enabled and I try to view the page source, for example, you can see here that we have only a couple of style sheets and JavaScript files, basically because it is all being aggregated into one huge file, and that's it. That's great for production environments, but not when we are doing development. So we want to turn that off. And that's why I was, that's why I was trying to disable it here. So I disable, save configuration. And now if I see the page source, you can see we have all of the individual assets listed there. This makes it easier for us to debug when there is an issue, because the same browser is going to tell us where is the rule that we're looking at, okay? So we have that there. Great. Perfect, we have it. So what is our next point? Let's actually use the starter kit generator. Again, this tool allows us to create a starting point for our themes. This generated theme is going to have similar markup and CSS to the theme that we had previously called Classy. Okay, Classy has been, or was, Classy was a theme from core for a really long time. And now that we're in Drupal 10, it is no longer part of core. It is a contrib module. So for people that still want to use Classy, it is there, but now it is not really needed unless you have a legacy theme that was using it, and then in that case you want it. But if you're going to create a new theme from scratch, it doesn't really make sense to have Classy as a dependency. You can very well just create it with a starter kit, and that will be close enough to what Classy was. It includes markup and some CSS from a base theme, and that theme is a theme called a starter kit theme. It was also right next to the Olivero theme that I showed you before. So if you go to the core themes, you can see here we have Olivero, and we have this starter kit theme. So basically, what the starter kit tool does is it copies over that theme and changes some stuff, but it uses this one as the default. There are some ways to make it, well, there are now some ways to make it use other themes as the base, but in the most basic form, it is going to be using this one. So let's do it. How are we going to work with that? Well, in our terminal, we will need to run one command. And that command is this one, okay? We just need to make sure about the location we're in when we run this command. Because you can see here, it's a PHP command, and we're running it from the core folder. But in our case, for example, here in my terminal, I am inside of the project folder. If I do an ls there, you can see that I don't have core there. What I have is web. So the command will be very similar to the one I show you, but with web at the beginning. So let's do it. It will be basically PHP, right? Because we're going to run a PHP utility. And then we're going to add the full path to the Drupal executable, maybe? So let's say it is web / core / scripts / Drupal, okay? Space. Now we call the name of the command that we want, which is generate-theme. Generate-theme. And then we can give it a name. Now, here for the name, we can give it whatever name we want. So I'm going to call it DrupalCon because we're here. Why not? And then, if we just run it as done in here, it will basically just create the theme inside of the themes folder, right? But usually we want to have themes custom and themes contrib. So we will need to pass an extra flag to the command so that it actually saves it in that themes custom folder. So let's do it. I have PHP web core scripts Drupal, generate-theme. I will give it a name, which is DrupalCon. And then I will use the flag --path. Okay? And then I will just say what is the path that I want. In my case, it is themes/custom. Okay? No. Yes. Yes, we use the site route. Yeah. That's a great question. He asked if, in this case, for the path, we also need to add web/themes/custom. But in this case, that's not needed because what the command does is it runs the generation inside of the doc root. So for that, it's not needed. Yes?
So is the projector is kind of...
Yeah. Let's see.
Oh,
Yeah. Oh, no, but it was good to see. It is custom. It is just that the things... Guys, do you think you could move a little bit towards there? Because I think it is... for you to know, if you just run it in this moment, you have an issue. It is a red message that says that the folder cannot be created. That is because in our structure, like if we go to web, themes, there is nothing inside of it. There is not the custom folder. So the PHP command doesn't have permission to actually create that custom folder, only permission to create the theme. So we need to create that manually. So we will go to themes, right-click new folder, and create the custom folder. Okay? Once we do that, we can run the command, and this time it will actually work. And then you can see that instead of themes custom, you do get the folder for DrupalCon theme. And it already has some stuff in there. Yes?
I created custom folder, but after doing that, I ran the cd command and I could not open it.
A couple of suggestions. When you are naming your theme, make sure the name of the theme only contains lowercase letters. And it can have numbers, but it shouldn't contain spaces or dashes. So only lowercase and underscores, and that's it. If any of you added a dash, maybe just create another theme and delete the old one. Yes?
Not a question, but you might have mentioned or reiterated that the custom folder you create is not under the core realm. It's web themes custom.
Yeah, because maybe someone, okay. Yes, what is your name? Yeah, you're Andy. You're Andy, okay. As Andy mentioned, when I created this custom folder, I created it inside of the country part of the stuff, let's say, country and custom stuff. So it is not inside of web, it is not inside of core, it is right next to it. We have core, and next to core, we have the themes folder. It is there where I want to add my theme, okay? Because the core themes folder is just for themes that are part of core. The other one is for the country themes that I want in my system and for the custom themes that I want in my system. So that's what I did here, okay? Are we all okay? Do we all have the theme created? Do we have the theme created with only lowercase numbers and underscores? Yeah? Okay. I'll repeat it again. Are we sure? Because if we do it later, then we might have issues with our themes and with our templates and with the stuff. So we want to make sure it's good now. Great. No, dash is not okay. It's underscore. Yeah. Yeah, the issue is that if we add it with dashes, Drupal gets crazy sometimes, and it just starts like complaining. And it is not obvious that is the issue. So it's like a mess. But okay, so we have our theme created, you can see already that it has some stuff. So it has some CSS. Again, all of these CSS and JavaScript that it already contains is things that are similar to what we had in Classy. Honestly, most of the times I don't even look at them. I don't really need them. They are just there. For images, again, this is just some images that it is using by default on the theme. We have the SRC folder, which is where we could add some classes. Again, this one is because of the starter kit stuff. The templates folder is going to be very important for us later, so we have to keep that in mind there. We have the info YAML file, where we have already the name of our theme. It is using a base theme called the stable 9, which is also part of core. It is saying that it was created, that this can be used as a starter kit. That particular property is to indicate Drupal that if eventually I want to create another theme using this one as a base, I can. We have some libraries added that are being loaded in every page where the theme is used. And we're extending some other libraries from core with things from our theme. So that's what we have, and it even gives us information about what did we use to generate this theme. It also says that this is compatible with Drupal 10. Eventually, we will start saying that it is compatible with Drupal 11 as well. I think at this point it is compatible with Drupal 11, so if we want, we could do it. That's totally fine. And yes, that's our info YAML file. Just because we created it and it has the info YAML file, if we go to the appearance page, we will already have it listed. So you can see here we have Olivero and we have Claro, which are the default and the admin themes. And below, we have the DrupalCon one, the one that we just created. I'm not going to install it yet. I'm going to do some other changes. Why? Well, because I want to talk about sub-theming. At the end, sub-theming is a very powerful feature of themes in Drupal. It is something really cool that the Drupal theme layer provides. Basically, it just allows us to work with our theme, just like with any other theme, it is the same stuff. But we can define what is the parent theme or the base theme of the one that we're working with. And it is useful because it allows us to inherit the parent theme resources. So we can inherit the templates, we can inherit some, the location of some stuff, we can inherit the styles of it, and so on. There are only 3 things that we cannot inherit, and they are the core version requirement. The fact that the parent theme has a core version requirement doesn't mean that our theme has the same. If we don't define it, Drupal just dies and it doesn't recognize your theme, and there's nothing we can do about it. The color information, and the regions. So those are the 3 things that we definitely need to make sure that we add, even if we are using sub-theming. Right now, our theme is a sub-theme, let's say, of a stable 9, as most of the themes that we create. If we want to say that it will not have a parent theme at all, what we have to do is, in that info YAML file, we can completely remove this stable 9 and just make sure that the base theme property is set to false. Okay? If we do that, then we're going to have a theme that is just created on its own and it doesn't need anything and it's not inheriting anything from anywhere. Okay? We could also make it inherit any other thing. So in this case, it was using the stable 9, which is a very base theme from core that is created to be a base theme. But for example, because we don't want to build, we don't have time to build a full theme today, we're going to build some stuff, we can make it look nice just by inheriting, for example, Olivero, or any other theme that you want to download. So I could change that base theme to be Olivero directly. Just for the sake of making it nice since the beginning, okay? What will happen if I do that? Well, as soon as I install my module, or if it is installed already, if I clear the cache, it will be picking up the resources from Olivero theme. So we can see it in action. I'm going to go back here. I'm going to reload my page. And then here for DrupalCon, I'm going to install it and set it as default. It's there. If I go back to home, then you can see it looks kind of similar to Olivero. There are some things that are not nice. It's still awful, not great, but we can still do some changes to make it more similar, okay? If I had said that, again, my base theme was stable 9, and you don't have to do this, but I will do it so you can see it. And I come here and I clear the cache. I will clear it with ddevdrosh CR, which is the short for cache revealed. And I go back to my site and I reload it. Oh, it is not installed. Okay, I'm going to leave it as null, as false for now. Okay, sorry, didn't clear the cache again. It is the simplest thing that I can see. It has no styles, it has nothing. So again, today we want to work with something functional and create our components, so I'm gonna be using Olivero. But you can see here, that's what we have. And if you try to see the page source, you can also see where it is taking this stuff from. So for example, in our case, we're saying that this theme is just like, it doesn't have a parent theme. So where is it taking the things from? Well, from the modules, because it is what we mentioned at the beginning. Everything that a theme do is basically intercept what the modules are printing and changing how that is printed. So you can see here, all of those style sheets are actually coming from a module. Most of them the system module, but in some cases it is some contrib modules. We have here this thing for the Claro module because of the toolbar. But that's basically what is going on. Even, we could talk about the regions. If we're talking about the regions, for example, you can see that in our info YAML file, we have no region defined. But in our theme, we're still printing stuff. How is that happening? Well, this is basically, I'm going to take you to structure block layout. And the structure block layout is where we have the list of all the blocks and regions that we have in our site, right? This page is where the front end meets the site building. This is where we are going to decide what blocks are placed in what regions so that we can actually have something printed. The thing is that in Drupal, nothing gets printed if it is not in a block. And the blocks are not printed if they are not in a region. But the regions are not printed if they don't have a block. So it's like all these conditions to make it happen. As we don't have regions defined in our info YAML file, and of course they are not inherited, first because that is a limitation of the subtheming, and second because we also don't have a parent theme, then we could think about, okay, then what regions are being printed here? Again, that is part of the core modules. So when we don't have a definition of what regions we have in our theme, the regions that are printed or the regions that are used are going to be the ones that come from the system module. So that's why we have here this left sidebar, in this right sidebar, and that content, and all of those guys. Okay? So that's what we have in there. Again, I wanted to use Olivero, so I'm just going to switch it back here. I'm going to go with Olivero. And in here, I'm going to clear the cache again. And then if I reload this, I still have exactly the same situation, basically, because I just have, like, this is just the regions. I haven't changed what regions I have, so it is the same. But if I go back to the home page, Now the style is back to something more similar to Olivero. Today we want to make this actually looking like Olivero, because with the default starter kit, it is not going to look like that just because. So we need to do some changes. And some of those changes include doing changes to the regions. So we already saw in block layout what are the regions that we have, but we have no idea how they are arranged in the page. So that can be done by going to structure block layout, and then in here clicking on demonstrate block regions. When we click here, we can see how are all those laid out, and this is because of the resources that are coming from our theme and our parent theme. But in any case, even if Olivero has a lot of regions, if we don't have those regions defined in our theme, then they are not shown up here. So we want to change that stuff and make sure we have it correctly. So what I'm going to do here is to make my site look like the actual Olivero. I need to do some changes. And what we will do is we're going to copy over from Olivero a little bit if we want to have the same regions. So I'm going to go back to my code base, and I will go to Web, Core, Themes, Olivero, and I will find my info YAML file. This info YAML file for Olivero has a list of the regions that it has. So for now, I will basically just copy them over and put them in my info YAML file. Okay? So I come here, I put it at the end, or actually in any part of it, it's fine. We have that. And now when we clear the cache and we go back to the block layout page, we will be able to see all of these blocks shown up there. So I will go there, again, structural block layout. And now you can see even the order is different. The order in which the regions are shown in here is the same order in which I put them in the info YAML file. So that's what we have there. So we have all of it there. That's fine. Yes?
Is the order important when you put in the YAML, or does it matter
It,
within the CSS and everything?
yeah, it doesn't matter because the order in which you put it in the info YAML file is only going to define the order in which they are shown in this page, but not how they will be displayed. How they will be displayed is something that depends on the page template, which is our next step. So here we already copy over all of the regions, and now what we want to do is make sure we still have it in the right way. Like if we come here and we go to the demonstrate block regions, you can now see it looks different to what I had before. Now it has all of these guys. That looks fine. But if I take you to the same, but for Olivero, for example, you can see that it's actually like this. What is the difference in this moment if we have the same regions? Well, the difference is the page template. The page template is the one that is in charge of saying how we will rearrange or how we will arrange all of the regions in the page. It is the one that prints them. It is the one that adds some markup to it. And we need to get to a similar place to this. So in this case, we can find out why it is not looking like that. I can already tell you that it is because the template that we're using is different completely. So if I go back to my DrupalCon thing, this is what I have. If you try to inspect that page, you can find out what is the template that is being used because we have twig debug enabled. So if I try to inspect it, I'm gonna try to make this bigger. So you can see here we're printing a region in here. I can keep going up. This is the layout container. And I have here what is the template that is being used. But if you look at it, that template that is being used is the template of my DrupalCon theme. It is called page, and that's the one that is being used. That's perfect, except that I don't want that specific markup. I want it to be the same as the parent theme. So you have two options. One option is I go and copy over the template, the page template of the Olivero, and I put it in mine, right? So that the same template that is being used is now updated to have the same contents. Or I just get rid of the template that I have in my theme, because the one that I want to use right now is the one from the parent. And the templates are actually inherited. So the easy way right now is just get rid of the custom one and keep using the Olivero. But if we wanted to do some more customizations for it, the right thing to do will be just copy over the stuff, put it in my template, and then change the things that I want to change. Okay? So we can go for it. If I find the mouse. Here it is. Okay. So in my DrupalCon theme, I'm going to go to templates, layout, and I will see that I have the page template there. So what I will do right now, how do I know it is this one? Basically because I saw that in the Swig debug. But what I will do is I will just delete it. I will delete it permanently, and then I will clear the cache. And then I will reload my page. And now we have a more Olivero-like thing. We can, again, inspect it and try to find what is the template being used right now. So if I keep going up, you can see it here. You can see that now it is the one that is inside of Olivero. So it is working as I expect. Yes?
If you took away the inheritance right now, like went back to base name balls, what would happen? So
Yes.
no page HTML page file?
What will happen is it will use the, okay, so here's the beautiful thing about this. We have, the way in which the template engine works is there is a nesting, okay, nesting levels. So usually what will happen is Drupal goes and says, okay, I need to print the page, so I need the page template. I will find it in the templates folder of the theme that is being used. So in this case, DrupalCon. It goes to DrupalCon, it tries to find a template, it doesn't find it. So it says, okay, I will go to a parent theme. What is a parent theme? There is no parent theme? Oh, then I will go to the module that actually provides that thing. So it will be using the page template of the system module. Yeah? So the ordering is always going to be that way. If there exists a parent theme, it tries to find a template in that parent theme. If that parent theme doesn't have the template, but it has another parent theme, it will try to go to that other level to find it. If it doesn't find it, then it will just default to the module that usually provides it. So the best, maybe we don't think about it that much with the things that come from core, but for example, if you have used paragraphs, you can see it immediately. Like normally the template that is being used for rendering any paragraph is a paragraph HTML twig that is in the templates folder of the paragraphs module, right? It is exactly the same thing, but we almost never put real attention to what are the templates that populate everything. So one of the big switches, maybe when we're working with theming, is think that it does not define the templates. It defines how to intercept what we're printing. So everything at the end is being printed by a module, and with the theme, we're just trying to hook in the process to print something different. Anytime. So that's what we have. You know, if now we go to a homepage, for example, we have it here. We have it, and it looks like Olivero, right? Okay. It is 10:30 right now, so maybe we can take a little break, and let's take 10 minutes maybe, so that you can go to bathroom, drink water, get some coffee. Yes? Okay. Okay, sure. So 10:40, and I'll see you. Okay? Okay, so a couple of things. The block layout, the demonstrate block layout page that we were looking at here, like if we go to structure, block layout, demonstrate block layout, this one is just a demo page that is going to be showing the placeholders for each of the regions. And that placeholder is basically just the human name of each region so that we know what is going to be placed in every place, right? That's the first thing. Second thing, if we inspect this stuff, you can see something like this. If you just start inspecting, the first thing that you will see is we have here one particular template that is being used, and it is the HTML. And some of you might think that then the page is not being used, because I've heard it from a couple of people now, but it is. What happens with Drupal, again, is that there is nesting. So it is like there is a doll that is inside of a doll that is inside of another doll. Same thing exactly. So in this case, the HTML template basically allows us to have the template for the whole HTML document. That template is going to print the head and the body, right? And then it will print the content of the page. If you look at it, this is the HTML document. It has the head, it has the body, and inside of it, it has some other stuff. And then it has the templates for each of those things. If I keep going down, for example, this one, I don't remember what is it for. It seems to be the toolbar. If I keep going down, there is this one for the canvas wrapper. And if you keep going down, you don't find a page. But if we open this one for the canvas wrapper, and you scroll down, boom, we have the page template. So that's what we have there, okay? And then in this case, you can see that the HTML template was still from our custom theme. Yes, because it just existed there. But the page template is now the one from Olivero, so we're good to go, okay? Something important about that, the tweak debug here. We have here a list of file name suggestions for the template that we're currently using. And the list of those suggestions goes from the most general one to the most specific one. Actually, the other way around, from the most specific to the most general. So for example, a lot of them have some stars symbol, and there is one that has an X. The one that has the X is the template that is being used, okay? In this case, the page HTML tweak is like the most general one. It is the one that has, it is the one that is going to be used for all pages. If we wanted to override this for a particular case, then we will need to use any of the ones that are above it, because those are more specific. And then depending on the one that I use, I am targeting one thing or another. So in this case, for example, you can see we have page -- admin, that if I create a template in my theme, that template will be used for all the pages that are admin pages. If I use admin structure, that will be used for all the pages that are part of the admin pages that are specific to the structure part of it. And it keeps going in that way. If I take you to the home page, for example, you can see it's slightly different. If I go to the page part, it is down here. You can see I have a page node, and page front options. So that will mean page is for all the pages, page node is for all the pages that correspond to a node in Drupal, and page front is if I want to override the template for the homepage. And those are the things that I can do, okay? That's how the template suggestions work. Now, we're talking about the template system, right? And I have been talking about how the templates are nested and how it is like when you have a doll that is inside of a doll and that is inside of another doll. That's exactly how this works. Drupal uses the template engine called Tweak. You must all be familiar with it already. It is a PHP-based compiled templating language. And what happens is that when our page is being rendered, the Twig engine takes the template and it converts it into a compiled PHP template, which stores in a protected directory that is inside of the website's default folder. That part of the process, most of the times, we don't really care. Like, it's great it's there, but we don't really have to work that much with that part. We just need to make sure that we know how it works. The first template that is usually used when we are rendering a page is the HTML template. And that HTML template is the one that contains the HTML document, like the HTML tag with the head and the body, and a lot of other stuff, but that's basically it. We can't even see it currently in our theme. If you go to templates, layout, sorry, not templates, layout. Yeah, see, templates, layout. We have the HTML twig. If you scroll down, you can see here we have the doc type annotation, we have the HTML, the head, the body, and inside of it, eventually, we get to print some other stuff. In this case, we print the page. So when it prints the page, there is another template used for printing the page. And that's why we have this second level here. We print the page. Now, the page is the one in charge of printing all of the regions of our site. So it is going to print the header region, the sidebar, the content, the footer, all of those regions that we have, they are going to be printed as well. And each of them, for printing each of them, we have another template that is usually called region HTML.twig. So that is the next one, that is the next level. Our regions usually print blocks. Well, not usually, always print blocks. Everything in Drupal needs to be inside of a block. So we get the next template. For each of the blocks, we have the block HTML twig. And now the block will start printing the content. So it can print a field, it can print a node, it can print a paragraph, it can print any other entity. And for each of those, there are going to be more templates that correspond to the type of element we're working with. So at the end, each page load might use, I don't know, 50, 100 templates, and that's fine. It is not an issue in terms of performance, because again, it is all compiled and stored in the site's default folder, but this is the way in which it works. So that's what I showed you before. We have the HTML, we have the page, and we have some more stuff in there. Yes, this is the same thing that I just showed you. That is a template, and this is the one for the page. You can see in this case that we are just basically printing elements of each thing. So this is the content region, this is the sidebar first region, this is the sidebar second region, and we keep going, and then there's other templates for each of that stuff. So yes, there is that. There are some things related to Twig syntax. I'm not going to go super in-depth with Twig syntax. We're just going to be using it later, so I'll mention it super quickly. The way for us to print variables is use double curly braces and then the name of the variable that we want to print. That's what we use in Twig for printing anything. We can also print nested variables, and we will just be using the name of the variable, dot, and the variable that is inside of it. That's totally fine. We can hide the stuff as well using a filter called without. So basically, for example, in this case, we are printing the links from the variable content, and down here we're printing the comment part of it. But then in this one in the middle, we're basically printing everything else. We're printing the whole content variable without the properties, links, and comment, because I decided to print them somewhere else. So that's what I can use there. There is a way for us to print formatted fields and a way for us to print field values. In most of the templates, you will find like 2 variables, let's say. It is not 2, there are more, but for the purpose of what I want to show, I will say 2. The content variable is like a magic variable that has everything as a renderer array that we can use to just print whatever we decided we were going to print in the site building, for example. Like maybe you have a node and you're printing an image field and you're deciding that you're going to be using an image style and that it's going to be using, I don't know, whatever configuration you decide. You can do that by printing the field using the content variable. Now, the same field will exist in the entity variable of the thing that you're printing. So if it is a node, there is going to be a node variable. But the field in there, like that node variable is actually an entity object. So it is going to be different. That will allow you to get the value, like the raw value. But if you try to print it, it's going to be a mess most of the times. So you will have to get deeper and deeper until you find the actual value. But that's the difference between these two things, the node or user or paragraph or comment variables. They're always going to have the whole object, the PHP object, while the content has a renderable array that allows you to just print the thing and use the formatted field. This is a way for us to create variables. Again, I'll skip it a little bit. And this is how we can create comments. If you want to read more about Twig, there is twig.symfony.com. It has a lot of the documentation that we need. And you can go and read more about it. So, atomic and molecular design. Why? Because we're going to be doing an example of components. So do you know what it is? Yeah? Almost? Yeah. Okay. So one of the biggest advantages that atomic design provides is the ability to quickly shift between what is abstract and what is concrete. So we can see our interfaces broken down into smaller pieces and at the same time as a whole cohesive thing. There are 5 main stages to work with it, which are atoms, molecules, organisms, templates, and pages. When we work with SDCs, well, we basically want to build those components, and ideally we want to build them in this way, right? So that's why it is important to talk about this. These 5 stages, and it is called atomic design also, because it uses an analogy with chemistry, right? So we have the atoms. The atoms in our interfaces are going to be the foundational building blocks of the whole interface, right? They are things that cannot be broken down in smaller pieces without losing meaning, right? So an example of this can be, I don't know, a label, an input, a button, that kind of stuff, that it is small enough but has a purpose. Yes? But has a purpose. Similar to atoms in chemistry. It's like the basic building block of everything. And yes, they can be divided into electrons and neutrons and protons, but then we cannot use it in that way, right? So same thing here. If you have let's say an input field, you can separate the box from the placeholder. You can, but is it useful for your interface? Maybe not. So we're going to take the whole thing as a component for that atom. We have molecules. In chemistry, the molecules are basically groups of atoms that you bond together and they take on different properties, right? Same thing here. We're going to take groups of atoms that we are going to group together to have different properties. So for example, we can have a label and a button and an input component, and each of those are atoms, but if we put them together and give them a name, maybe we can form a search molecule, right? And it has a different purpose that, I don't know, some other kind of search like an autocomplete for something else. They are different, they have different purposes, they are both different molecules. Organisms are more complex UI components. They can be made of atoms as well, or molecules, or both of the things. That's totally fine. When we place all of it together, we get to build organisms, which are, sorry, we get to build templates. I said organisms, but I already talked about organisms before. We get to build templates, which in our case are the templates that we have been talking about. We could say those are it. And when we finally add content to those templates, we actually get our pages. So let's say in the Drupal side of the things, those pages are what gets printed at the end. The templates are the ones that we're working on, that we were talking about minutes ago. And then we are going to stay in the realm of atoms, molecule, organisms for building our components. These are some examples of how you can rearrange some of those things. This is coming up directly from the book of Atomic and Molecular Design. So you can check it out. But yes, this is just like an introduction for us to talk about SDC. So, what is SDC? Yeah, perfect. Single director components. We were thinking about coming up with something else, but it wasn't so funny. So, yes, there are single directory components. It is a module that is experimental in Drupal 10. It is in core, of course. I think they said it is no longer experimental, or is it still? It is still, right? Yeah. Yeah. But it is going to be like the default way of building things in Drupal, starting in Drupal 11, I think. So that's the plan, and everything is moving towards SDCs. Like there are already a lot of tickets in the issue queues to start moving everything for Olivero, Claro. The new experience builder is being built based on the SDCs as well, and the ability to create components from the experience builder as well. So it is a really, really cool approach. Why is it a cool approach, though? Well, it is really cool because it allows us to have everything that we need to build a component in the same folder. And at the same time, it allows us to have some metadata about the components that can be used even to build the structures in Drupal that we're going to use to store the data. That's not fully done yet, but that's one of the goals for us to be able to do soon. This is the folder structure. These are two examples, but basically that's the things that we can have in one SDC. We can have a component YAML file and a twig file, but we can also have some CSS and JavaScript. In the old way of doing theming in Drupal, we had all of this in many different places and with many different names. And then if 1 year after we coded the website, we needed to go and do a change to one of the things, it's a maintenance nightmare. And we had to do a lot of stuff and go and search everything, and it is a bit painful. So now we can have just one folder that has everything that we need there. It has an easy naming structure as well. So yeah, that's what we have. Apart from that, it allows us to auto-load CSS and JavaScript, so we don't have to worry about, oh, I have to tell the component to use this CSS, or oh, I need to tell the component that they have to use this JavaScript. No, you just create the file with a name, you're good to go. Those two files, the component YAML and the twig file, are actually required files for you to have an SDC. So that's the thing there. At some point it was mentioned that even the component YAML can be empty and it will work. So, but it needs to exist. And then the other rest of the things like CSS, JavaScript, images, that is going to be like completely optional. We have props, we have slots. This is, yeah?
So, the previous slide, you have the CSS file name is different than the folder name itself, is that?
Yes. So in this case, two things. One, it was my mistake when I took the screenshot. Because if it is like this, then it will not auto-load it. Thanks for pointing it out. But let's say it is a feature. And I put it there because we could talk about how to load it. right? We can still override the library's behavior of our components, and even if you don't have the same name for the CSS file as the component name, you can still tell Drupal to use it, okay? So we still have the option. Yes?
So it is recommended that whatever component we have, we just have all the same names.
Yes, if you have the same names, it will automatically load the CSS and JavaScript. Yes. So in this case, if we have a card.css, that one will be loaded automatically. And the test.css will not.
Without creating a library for it?
Without creating a library for it. If the name is the same, you don't need to create a library. Amazing.
Now, in terms of creating the name structure, let's say if I did card underscore front page, should I also use that as a name structure, card underscore, keeping that consistent with the actual root folder or the word table you have?
With a root folder, like if you,
Right now you have like button and card, right? So
yes,
it's kind of like the atom itself. But
yes.
I wanted to use like a two-name system, like a card. Like if I want to do multiple cards.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you can call that card simple, card underscore simple, and another call card underscore image, and they are going to be different, but the name of the folder needs to be the whole thing. It is not like you can have card, and then instead of it simple, and then the other one. In that case, it doesn't work.
Is it dash for templates and underscore modifiers?
Yes. Yes. Correct. Yes, exactly, like that. In our components, we're going to find something called props and slots. What are each of them? I think this is one of the confusions in SDC. And the thing is that the props allows us to have content that has a defined structure, and the slots are actually unstructured data that allows you to replace the whole thing. So when we're talking about props, they have this defined structure for the data that will be passed to the component using JSON notation. The component's twig file will declare the use of those props, and then it is like you were just passing over the name or the value of the variable, right? So this is how you will define the props. We have the props here. It is always an object, and then the properties inside of that props object are going to be all the things that could exist in your twig file, but that you're going to just use, like you're just going to use the value. So for example, the link needs to be a string, so we require it to be a string. If you, for the link, pass something that is not a string, Drupal will complain about it. It will die, and it will tell you, no, I can't do this. Same thing for the text, for the button class, for a numeric value, whatever you need, you can define it as a prop if you need it in your template, and then it will make sure that whatever you're passing follows the structure that you define in your components YAML. Now, we have the slots. What is the difference? Well, the slots, again, are unstructured data. And the thing with the blocks is that they use twig blocks. So you can see here, we have no props. You can see there are no properties for props. But we do have slots. The slots are also defined in the components YAML file, but they don't have any other information apart from the title and potentially a description. Even, you don't need the title or the description. You can just add the name of it, like featured first, featured second, and then that means that in the twig template for this component, there exists a twig block with that name. So that when you call this component and try to use it, you can just completely override the whole section. Okay? We're going to see it in practice soon. But that's what it is. Depending on what type of things you have and you want to pass, there are going to be two different ways of calling the component. One of them is with include, and the other one is with the embed. If you are only going to pass props to your component, you need to use the include. And then you call the include function, you pass the name of your component, and then you, in the second parameter, you send a JSON object with the properties that are the props, so in this case, a slides item, and the values. But if it is something that you need to send props to, you will use the embed, and inside of the embed block, you will define the block for the slot that you had defined. So in this case, I want to send a value for the slides items, but in this case, I want to override the whole slides section. So that's what I'm doing there. But again, we're going to do it. How we're going to put this in practice? We're going to create a slider of cards in our component, sorry, in our website, and we will work with that. So we're going to create some structures in Drupal. I'm going to work with paragraphs for today. We will also do blocks, but yeah. Well, I will work with it if my computer doesn't turn off. So give me 1 second, please. You see?
Should have power here. Interesting.
It is that one, right?
Yeah, I think.
Thank you. Come on.
Will it work through that?
Normally it does.
Maybe it's me.
Let me try with this one. Give me 1 sec. No, it is there.
Maybe it's my fault.
Okay, there is it. Let me just check if. Okay, we saved it. Okay, so yes, let's create some components for it. Initially, I wanted to create a component for the button and then another component for a card, but because of time issues, I don't know if we will be able to theme both of them. So maybe let's just get the paragraphs component, the paragraphs module and create this one, okay? So I'm gonna go back to Gitpod. By the way, I didn't mention this before, but Gitpod has a couple of limitations. So it is going to be alive, let's say, if we're using it constantly. But if we spend 30 minutes without using this part, it will turn off. So we'll need to turn it on again. It shouldn't be a big deal. It is easy to do, but just don't click on the open in Gitpod button again. After launch, we're going to do it all together, but just for you to know. If for any of you it is already turned off, let me know. It is? Okay, so let's do this. Go to gitpod.io. You will see the list of your workspaces there. Yeah? You see it? Yeah? So in there you will find the one that you're using, that you were using before. Click on the 3 dots and click on open. This will do it. It shouldn't take more than a minute, and you will still have everything that you had before because it is the same workspace. So if you click on the open in Gitpod button that I show in the GitHub, that will create a new workspace where you don't have your changes. So that will be the issue. That's why we just want to open the one that we had. Okay? Cool. So once we're in, let's just get paragraphs and start creating our component. So ddef composer require Drupal/paragraphs. And let's install it. So I'm going to go to the extend page, and I'm going to enable the paragraphs module. And I'm going to enable also media and media library. Okay? So paragraphs, media, and media library. And we install it. here. Drupal/paragraphs. Okay. I will give you some time to create these components. Okay, let's create a new paragraph type. Well, you will have to create a media type and then the paragraph type.
How do you do that? We just enable.
Yeah, let's do it.
Enable paragraphs and then what else?
Media and media library. Sorry? Yes. You need to do the composer require, and then you can install it here in the extend page. So once it's there, I'm going to go and create the items. So first I will go to structure, media types, add a media type. Because as I want to create an image field in my paragraph type, I want to do this. So I'm going to create a media type for images. Image. In a media source, I'm going to choose image. And the rest of the things, I'm going to leave them as default. Are we good? Okay. So we have that. Then we're going to leave this one as it is. I have my media type. It's good.
I got an error on machine readable name.
Oh, okay. So if you installed the standard profile, like if you installed without Gitbot, you don't need to do this step of the media type. Yeah. So the context. For the Gitbot stuff, as I wanted you all to be able to install the site from the configuration, I had to work with a minimal profile. And a minimal profile basically makes it so when I install a module that can come with some default configuration, it doesn't use that default configuration, okay? If we install with a standard profile, then you do. So if you install the media module and you use the standard to install Drupal, it will give you some predefined media types. But if we use minimal, like all the guys that are using Gitbot, then we don't have that, and that's why we need to create this, okay? So if you want to make sure, just look, like go to structure media types and see if you have a media type for image. If you already have it, good to go. If you don't, we create it. Good? Great. And now we can actually create our paragraph type. So I'll go to structure, paragraph types, add paragraph type. And then here we start creating our stuff. So I'm going to call this one card. And I'm going to start adding some fields. So I save and manage. I will now create a new field. I want to create one for the card description, the card title. So I'm going to choose plain text here. I'm going to call it card title. I choose the plain text, and I choose the option text plain again, because it is a title, so it can be short. I click on continue. I'm going to leave it limited to 1, and I'm going to make it required. I'll save it. We have our first field. I'm going to add another one for the card description. So create new field. Card description is the name. I might want this one to be a formatted text. Or text plain, I think, let's see. I said it was text plain long, so I will leave it as text plain. Yes? You need help? Okay.
No, wait.
You don't see it this way?
Drop down.
see it either. Yeah, I
I
didn't
have
see
a
it.
drop down.
Okay. Huh.
No, 10.1.8.
Okay. Yeah. In your case, it's because you have a local installation, right? It's not the
Yeah, local.
yeah. But it's okay. You can still choose the plain text. Text plain, text plain long.
Yeah,
The rest of the
yeah,
process is the same.
just
For those, you are using visual, so you should have the same. Yeah, you're fine. Yeah. Product types. Oh. Okay. No, I'm gonna work on this one.
yeah.
And what you want to do is
I have
create a
to come
paragraph
back to
type
the Drupal
called
master
card.
to do it.
Yeah. Exactly. And then you can create a field. So, please, the first step is we create a paragraph type called card. And then inside of it, we create the fields. Okay? Do we all have the paragraph type created? Yeah? Do we all have the first field created, the card title? All good here? All good here. Okay. And then we have the card description. Again, for some of you, the interface looks a little bit different. Maybe if you're using a previous version of Drupal, a previous version to 10.2. But it's the same. It's just like a drop-down where you can choose the items. So in this case, I'll choose card description. I'm going to make it plain text. And this time, I'm going to make it plain text plain long. Okay? I will continue. I'm going to make this one required as well. And I'm going to save it. Okay? There I have it. I will create another field, this time for the image. So I'm going to choose the media type this time. The label, I'm going to call it image. I'm going to call it card image. And I will continue. Limit it to 1. I'm going to make it required as well. And the media type, I'm going to choose the image media type. Now I save. And I have the 3 items. The only other thing that I want to do is the one for the links. So I'm going to add a new field of type link. I'm going to call this one CTAs. And I will continue. This time I'm going to leave it unlimited in case we need to have more than one button or more than one link. And I will save. Okay? So we have those 4 field types.
If you accidentally chose the wrong field type, can you change it?
No, you need to delete the field and add it again.
Thank you.
Are we okay?
Why CTAs?
I decided to call to actions.
Okay.
Yeah, that is it. In my original plan, it was going to be a paragraph type for the buttons, so that we had the link field and then an extra field, so we will choose Don't worry, all good. Okay. So at this point, we basically created our site building part of it, right? We created a paragraph type for the card. We have the fields. Now we need to make sure that we can add that to a slider somewhere. So what I will do is, in our basic page content type, I will create a new field for a slider. So basically it is for us to have a slider in the basic page notes. So how we're going to do that? Well, we're going to go to structure, content types, basic page, and I'm going to go to manage fields. In this one, I'm going to add a new field. And this time, this field is going to be for the slider, right? So I'm going to call these slides. So I have my slides field that is going to be of type paragraph here, okay? If you're using a previous version of Drupal, you will find it like entity reference revisions or entity revisions paragraphs, something like that. But it's going to be the same thing. So we choose paragraphs, we continue, and now we can configure it. I'm going to leave it as unlimited values, and then in here I will select the card so that we allow to have cards on it. I'm going to save the settings, and I'm good to go. Okay? I will go and create a new node of this type, and I will add some cards to it so I have the content and I can start seeing how it is printed and we can theme it. Okay? So let's go for it. I'm going to go to content, add content, basic page, and let's just add a node with multiple cards, okay? Each of us. Okay, so I have mine there. I will give you a couple of minutes to finish yours. Okay? How are we going? Are we good? Are we all done? On it? Okay. Sorry, what did you say?
Did you add CTAs or was it just content and images?
I added a couple of CTAs in some cases, in the last two cards, but in the first one I didn't add anything. Okay. If we have it, then we already have our content in here. You can see a lot of the stuff. You can see we have some labels for the fields and so on. We can configure all of that. I'm not going to do it for now, but you can very well. That's totally fine. What I want us to do now is to actually start creating the SDCs. And then in this case, if we want to create a slider of cards, we need at least 2 SDCs. One of them for, well, actually one, at least one. We could create one for the SDC, for the slider as well, but we could also just make it so the field has what we need. So we can choose our approach. In our case, I'm going to go with creating an SDC for the card, because each card is one thing, they are always repeatable, that's there. And I will create one for the slider, okay? So that we can manage all the elements that we need for the slider in the same place, because at the end we will need some CSS, some JavaScript for it. It makes sense to have it as a component on its own. So let's start there. For creating this slider, I think we can use Swiper.js. So we can start configuring all of that. How we're going to do this? Okay, if we want to use SDCs, as it is an experimental module, it is not enabled by default. So the first thing we will need to do is enable the SDCs. I'm going to go to extend page and enable SDC module. So SDC, here we have it, experimental, and install. Continue. And we're good to go. Now, for us to be able to work and create the components, we need to create a components folder in our theme. The components can be created in modules as well. That's fine. But in this case, we're going to create the components folder in our theme, and we will work there. So I'm going to go back to my Gitpod, and instead of the theme DrupalCon, which is mine, I'm going to create another folder. It will be right next to the other folders that exist. It shouldn't be inside of any of them. It is just directly in the root of the theme. So I'm going to come here, right-click, new folder, components. And instead of the components, I can start creating the folders for my components, for each of my components. So I'll create one for the slider. In components, I right-click, click on new folder, and then I create it. In this case, it is a slider. So we have the folder, now we need the files. Remember that the files that are needed are the components YAML file and also the twig. So I'm going to create both of them. New file, slider.component.yaml, and the other one, there is going to be the slider.twig, and that's it. In this case, we don't need it to be .html.twig, just twig is perfect, okay? No need for the Drupalisms in this case. So yeah, we have that. In the component YAML file, there is one schema that we could use, but it has a lot of information. We can always use it as a base if we want. You can go and find it in Drupal.org. Here's the main documentation. And then here, I think in the quick start maybe, I don't remember where exactly. Yeah, here. You can use all of these as a base, and then you can start changing stuff. I won't use this as a base. I will just start creating our own because it is small enough. So I'm gonna come here, give it a name. So it will be name, colon, and then the name of the thing. Remember, this is YAML, so for those of you who are new to this, new to Drupal and so on, we're using YAML files in a lot of places. And it is very important to know that it is super picky about the nesting. So make sure, like, everything will be like key, colon, value first. And then second, that every time that you are going to do some nesting levels, you need to do it with the spaces, not with tabs. Because if you do it with tabs, the system just cracks, okay? So name slider, and then there are two things that we need is the props and the slots. So in this case, I'm gonna create the props property, and inside of it, I'm going to start adding the things that it needs. The props in SDC always need to have a type, and that type is always going to be object. And the other property that it will have is, exception, also called properties. So it is of type object, and the properties that it has are going to be listed under the properties key. Now, inside of properties, we will do another 2 spaces for nesting, and we will start adding the properties that we need there. So for example, for this slider, what we need is something that contains all the slides, right? And maybe we can receive a title. I don't know. It could be. How do you define which one is going to be a prop and which one will be a slot? Well, in this case, something like the title is always going to have the same type of characteristics, right? It's always the same kind of thing. It's always going to be a text that you want to place in a particular part of the component. I will say that that title is actually one prop. So we could say there's going to be the title property and start describing how it is. So in our case, we can say the title is of type string. It can have a title, which is called, this is the title of the slider. So it can be title or slider title or whatever you want to call it. Carousel title, I don't know. We can get creative. And we can also add some examples of what will we receive here. Okay, I'm going to make the example here being some text, like this. My carousel. And then I have my property. And again, I can have as many properties as I need. That's totally fine. All I need to do is make sure I describe them, saying what is the title or label for the property, what is the type, and giving a default value for it, which is not really a default value. It's just like the example value of what we could receive in that property. So there is that one. And we can have more. I mentioned that we have this title, but we also need the slides, right? Like we need to receive all the cards that we're going to slide through. In that case, do you think the slides could be another property? Should it be a property or should it be a slot? Why? Yeah, what we want to do with that is basically replace a whole section with some content that is going to come already populated and formatted. So it's going to be easier if we just call that a slot. So we can come here, and for the slots, we need to do it at the very first level, like right next to props, slots here. And then we can start adding all the slots that we want again. So in this case, it's going to be called the slides, and I'm going to give it a title, which is basically slides, and then a description, maybe. But if I don't want to give it a description, that's fine. I'm going to add it here anyway. Description. And there we have it. We could also have just left this one empty and started with the twig file, and then from the twig file, figure out what are the things that are going to be props and slots. And in that way, it might be sometimes easier, but we may also have like this structure first and then go to a twig and then figure out that we need something else and come back and add it. That's totally fine. So that's what we have here. We have our components YAML file. We need to populate the twig file. So that's what we're going to do. Now, how are we going to work with that twig file? Well, I told you that for this slider, we want to use Swiper.js. So what we should do is see what does Swiper.js needs us to do to have a carousel? So if you go to swiperjs.com and you go to the docs, getting started, for example, you can see here how to work with it. In this case, the first thing that we know is that there is definitely a requirement in terms of the markup. So that's what we're going to try to do first. I will ignore this part for now. I won't get it yet either. What I want is the layout. And we have it here. There is some HTML layout there. So what I will do is basically just copy over all that twig for my slider. So I copy that, I come to my twig, and I paste it. And I have it. Now, at this point, I mentioned that I needed a prop for the title and a slot for the slides. If you look at this code, well, we don't have any title anywhere, but we could very well add it. So before the slider, for example here, I could try to print my property for the title. Maybe I will say that I will have an H2, and instead of that H2, I'm going to print the title. All I need to do is use twig syntax and put the name of the prop as I defined it in the components YAML file. So I have it there, and I have the rest of my file. All good? More or less? Okay, I went to where am I here? I went to docs, getting started, and then down there, just scroll a little bit, it's like the third title. All good? Yeah, okay. So, let's see. Just closing some stuff. So there we have it. We have the title, we already printed it, and we have all of this. We can very well start trying to pull this into the site. How are we going to pull that? Well, we need to make sure we are calling this SDC from somewhere. How or where do we do that? Remember we created the slides field? So we need to make sure that that slides field is going to actually call this thing. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to our page, which was the node 1. Well, in my case. I think most of yours as well. And then we can try to find out what is the template that we should use to call this thing. So if I come here and I inspect it, what I usually do, here's my trick. What I usually do to find out what is the template I need is I go to the beginning of the field, right? And I inspect toward the beginning of the field so that I can actually find what is the thing that is closest to it. So in these slides, I will inspect it. You can see here, this is the field label. This is the container for all of it. And then you can see here what is the template that is being used. So in this case, it is the field template from the DrupalCon theme. But you can see here some file name suggestions. So for example, if I wanted to edit my template, this template that is currently being used, that will be probably a mistake, because in that case, it will override all of the fields in the whole website. That's not what I want. I want to call the slider SDC only in this one. So I need to choose which one is the best option for me. If you look at it, we have a field entity reference revision, so that means it will apply for every field of type entity reference revision, so we don't want that. We have a field slides, so it means it will be for the field called field slides that is in every part of the website. That might be an option, right? We have another one for field node page, so in all the nodes, field node field slides, so the field slides in the nodes, or field slides page, I think. So that means it is the field slides and the content type page. So again, we can choose in here. We could go with the field node field slides, for example. That will be specific enough. Yes?
Just a quick question. This is the field you created on the content type that looks up this paragraph. Is it not a good idea to have one field that looks up multiple paragraphs that you can keep adding different sections? Like
Yeah, sure. Sure.
You wouldn't want to use that field because then it would be.
Okay, so it depends on what you're doing. So in this case specifically, I created this field because I want to, in the basic page node types, I want to always have the possibility for the user to have a slider. That's it. Yes. If I were creating, for example, if we're working with landing page creation, for example, that use case is super common. So you create a components field that allows the user to add many different type of paragraphs. And in that case, let's say this field components, you don't want to overwrite that one. You actually just want that one to print whatever it has. In that case, what I will do is I create another paragraph type for the slider that has the title and has the slides field. And then from there, I do it. In this case, I just created one paragraph type and decided to have the field in the node. So yeah, we can go, either way. This could be directly in the content type or in another structure that is going to have the field. In any case, we will need a field that contains all the cards, so it's going to be similar. So in this case, I'm going to go with the field node field slides. So every time we use a field slides field, it will have this display. So what I will do is basically, I will copy the field template that I'm currently using. I will paste it in my theme, and I will give it the new name. Okay? Just making sure what I will write. Okay, so this one is already in my theme, so I'm going to go and copy it over. So I will go to one more thing before I continue. Please note that now I am in the templates side of the thing, right? I don't need to copy that template into the SDC. The SDC is just that. But I need to call it from somewhere, and in that part, I do need the Drupal part. There is another module called SDC display and another one called SDC block that in theory will allow you to not have to use a template to call the SDC. Last time I used it, it had some issues. So it worked in some situation and another ones it didn't. So I'm still doing it with templates. I saw it yesterday in the contribution sprint, and it was working for some other things, so it might be worth it to look at it, okay? But for now, we're going to still do it with a template.
That was SDC log and what?
And SDC display. Sorry? SDC display, SDC underscore display. I'm gonna actually show the pages. SDC display. This is one of them. And the other one is SDC block. This one. Okay? So you can look at it. I know in the contribution sprints, a lot of people was working on some bug fixes and so on, so it will be probably great after that. Because there was missing some mappings that was making the things a little bit difficult. For example, if you needed, it is classic that you have a link field and you want to display it as a button, and then you need, your SDC has a property for the title and a property for the link, and you need to be able to map the field link and the field title to those properties in the SDC, and that was not working previously. So that's why I'm not using it that much currently, but again, yesterday they were fixing it and it was working nicely, so you can look into it. The alternative is just do it with a template, okay? So that's what we're doing. So I'm gonna go to my theme, templates, field, and then there is a field template here at the top, field HTML twig. I'm gonna copy it, I'm gonna paste it in the same folder. Hello. I'm gonna paste it in the same folder, and I will rename it. So I will remove the word copy, and this one should be field -- node -- field slider. Field slides, I think it was. Field slides. So every time we have a field slides in a node, it will use this template. From the same field folder, there is a field HTML twig. And what we want to do now is actually change the markup. Because this field, this template, has a lot of stuff that we're not going to need. Okay? You can see here how it is printing many different things. So for example, this 4 is the one that is actually printing each item, right? So what I will do is I will remove the rest of it, and I will keep this one for now. So I'm gonna quickly just cut that, delete all of it, and just keep this bit. Why I'm doing that? Basically because I still want to print the content of my field, but I want to print it differently. If I do this, I will be printing still all the cards, right? I'm still not printing the SDC though. But this can help me to know if this is still working. Yes?
What file did you copy?
The field HTML twig.
Oh, and then you named it field slides.
Exactly. Field -- node -- field slides.
Thank you.
Anytime. How do I call? Well, I'll wait. Are we okay?
So we're doing this?
Yeah. It is lunchtime. Okay. Sorry?
Is that 2 underscores in field letter?
Yeah.
2 dashes. Oh, in the line 2?
Yeah.
Yeah, 2 underscores.
So what did you delete in there again? Was that everything except for those?
I
three
believe,
lines?
exactly.
Everything except what?
Except those
Those 3 lines.
Basically, because the rest of the file was basically just adding some conditions for, it is a template that is generic to all the fields. In this case, we know for sure that we want to print all the items that are inside of the content of the field. So it is safe for us to delete the rest of it because we already know what we want, okay? Ideally, after we have done this, we can clear the cache, reload the page, and we should see everything is still working, and now using this template. So I'm gonna show you real quick. There we are. If I come here, you can see this is the field for that, so this is not it. This is the one for the card, so I can scroll up. This is for the paragraph. This is the item. And you can see there the template that is being used is that one. Right? Field node, field slides. All good? No?
What was that section that we needed to keep?
This one here. I'll go help here. Yes. Are you having it? Yeah, it looks the same. We just need to make sure that we are. Probably you will not see the slides field label, and you see that the template is used. Okay. Okay. I want to do just one more thing before we go to lunch. I'm going to do just one more thing before we go to lunch. Okay? So we have the template there. All good. It is being used. Perfect. We need to call the new SDC. So let's do the change. How do we do that? Well, basically, we will want to do either an include or an embed, right? So for now, I will do it with an include. The way in which we called our component is, we use Twig syntax, but in this case it is curly brace percentage symbol. And inside of it, we called that function. So include, and then in parentheses, we will define the name of our component. The name of the components on SDC is always going to be the name of the theme, colon, the name of the component. So in my case, I will add quotes, and then the name of my theme is DrupalCon. So I'm going to do DrupalCon, colon, and then the name of the component, which in this case is slider. This is the simplest form, this is the simplest way for us to load or call, invoke an SDC. In this case, I'm not passing over any parameters, not any props, not any slots, but that's okay. This is enough for it to call it. So we can clear the cache, for example, and then go and reload the page. And you can see that we have the slide 1, slide 2, slide 3. We still need to do some updates because we don't really want this in this way. We want the slide 1, 2, and 3 to be actually the cards. But we can do that after lunch, okay? So this is it. If you're done, you can go lunch, and we are back at 1, okay? Great.